Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Douglas, Mr. Bailey, people represented by Ms. Clark, Mr. Darden. The jury is not present. Counsel, is there anything else that we need to take up before we invite the jurors to join us?
Yes, Your Honor. The court pleases.
Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this concerns the videotape that the defense was given a copy of only yesterday from the prosecution, which clearly turned out to be a piece of very favorable evidence to Mr. Simpson's defense. As the court is well aware,
Which videotape are we talking about here?
we're talking about the recital videotape, Your Honor.
All right.
As the court is well aware, the case of Brady versus Maryland obligates not only the district attorney's office, but also its agents in the Los Angeles Police Department to immediately turn over information or evidence that is favorable to the accused. In this instance, Your Honor, we happened to learn from the person who created that tape, a Mr. Scott Kennedy, only last week of its existence, and we're able to see it for the first time only last Friday when we were able to receive a copy directly from Mr. Kennedy. Your Honor, we had raised the issue of this tape in court on Thursday, and both Mr. Darden and Ms. Clark claimed to have had no knowledge of its existence, but that they would check into it. We learned from the testimony of Canvas Garvey that on Friday afternoon, this same copy of this tape was shown to her, and she had a chance to preview it in preparation for her testimony. Kennedy claimed, Your Honor, that he had sent a copy of the tape to the prosecution back in July, and since early July, we had repeatedly requested any Brady-type material and were assured that there was none, or that which was in their possession had been given over. Your Honor, 2 weeks ago, I stood before this court at this podium, and I was lambasted for conduct that was termed the most egregious in the history of jurisprudence. I choose not to reach into my bag of hyperbole and whack the prosecution over the head with it for their conduct, but my indignation is every bit as strong and severe. And I worry, Your Honor. I've practiced criminal law for 15 years, and this has indeed happened in other cases where there has been failure to turn over Brady type of material. So it's not new to me, Your Honor. But depending on the explanation that the people would offer for its non-disclosure until now, I think that there is the supreme risk for there to be due process violations of a constitutional dimension. And I urge the court to conduct an official inquiry into the circumstances of this tape's coming into the possession of the people, how it was that they were in possession of it for 7 months and did not either realize that it was Brady or failed to turn it over to the defense, and most importantly, what sorts of mechanisms have now been in place to make sure that the people have disgorged their files of all Brady-type material, and what sorts of new mechanisms are now in place to assure that there will not be a repeat occurrence of this problem. Your Honor, I am accepting of the notion that such an inquiry can be done in camera, but I do think it very important that there be certain explanations brought to this court's attention. When the tape was first received, who had possession of it, how did they learn of its existence only after we mentioned it in open court, and as I said earlier, what is going to be done to make sure that there are not other Brady-type materials in the people's possession, and what mechanisms will assure that there will not be a repeat occurrence of this. As the court is aware, Brady requires the people to turn over not only evidence that is favorable on the issue of guilt or punishment, but it also requires the turning over of evidence that may reflect on the credibility of material witnesses. Indeed, Your Honor, commentators have noted that as it relates to Brady material, the far better practice of the prosecution is to resolve any doubtful questions in favor of disclosure. There are, Your Honor, witnesses in this case that are very material, and I remember the words of Mr. Simpson as he returned back to lockup last night, which kind of echoed the words of Rodney King, "Thank goodness for videos." I wonder how Mr. Simpson's defense and his cross-examination of both Mrs. Garvey and Denise Brown would have been adversely affected had those tapes not been turned over to us when they were, because we would have been left with the image of a brooding, vacant O.J. Simpson rather than a smiling, happy-go-lucky man. And indeed, Your Honor, that tape was able to clearly illuminate the true facts of that day and are very central to our case. On those comments, Your Honor, I'll submit the matter.
Any comment from the people?
I can't believe that Mr. Douglas is still whining about the sanctions the court imposed a couple of weeks ago as a result of his own misconduct regarding the issue of discovery. I cannot speak to the issue of when the tape came into the possession of the prosecution because I was not a part of the prosecution team in this matter, apparently, when the tape came into our possession. But when Mr. Cochran brought it to our...
Rough idea when that was?
Do I have a rough idea when that was?
Yeah.
No. I'm sure it's been up there a while, though. But when it came into our possession, I don't know. When Mr. Cochran brought it to our attention, then we went in search of that particular tape. We have some 400 videotapes upstairs, and that happened to be one of them, unfortunately. I would simply like to point out that obviously we were not hiding the tape. The fact of the tape's existence apparently was known to others outside the DA's office, so why would we hide it? It's a mistake. Just another innocent mistake in a situation where you have 30,000 pages of discovery and hundreds of videotapes. It happens.
Is this videotape logged in any way, in any of the logs that was disclosed to the defense?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right.
In fact, it wasn't disclosed in any log provided to Deputy DA Christopher Darden, for that matter, Your Honor.
Well, then let's address Mr. Douglas's request that how are we assured that everything that is Brady versus Maryland type material has been identified and disgorged by the prosecution?
Well, I am confident that every piece of paper and every audio tape that we're required to turn over has been turned over. And I'm confident now that every videotape we're required to turn over has been turned over. As for Mr. Douglas's characterization of the tape as being somehow exculpatory, I disagree. I think that the demeanor and appearance of the defendant in that videotape is nothing like I've ever seen of the defendant. It doesn't even look like him. It looks like an entirely different person. And that, of course, is an issue for the jury to resolve. But I don't think there are any other problems with our discovery. I didn't have a chance to write out 5 or 6, pages of commentary for this morning's proceedings like Mr. Douglas did.
I'm just happy, Your Honor, that Mr. Darden is not sitting on this jury. I think, Your Honor, it's interesting how everything that they do is innocent and everything that we do is misconduct. But I'm not going to dwell on that. What I think the important thing is, Your Honor, is that there was a problem. Just how there was a problem with Marianne Gertjes and a statement, there was a problem apparently with the videotape in the people's possession since last July. And certainly I think that there has not been adequate explanation for the problem, and there needs to be in-camera and official inquiry. That's all that I ask.
Thank you, counsel. All right, just so it's clear, the court orders the prosecution to turn over any material that is defined by Brady versus Maryland. And I will conduct a later inquiry as to date and time as to the how this tape came into existence, when it was transmitted, and whether or not there was any failure to effectively evaluate.
I should indicate that Mr. Hodgman may be the best person to convey that information to the court, and when he returns, we will inquire.
When will
of
Mr.
him.
Hodgman be available again?
I'm not sure. I have no final word on that issue yet.
Okay.
Not on another issue, but for the record, we have asked the prosecution to return to us 12 videotapes taken from the defendant's home, and we'd like that done expeditiously. They may be useful in the case.
We have already assured Mr. Bailey that we will examine those videotapes, this is now the third time, and turn them over if they have still evidential value.
All right. Let me know if we need to take that up later. All right, anything else before we invite the jury to rejoin us? All right, let's have the jury, please. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies for having kept you waiting so long this morning. There were some very delicate matters that I had to inquire into this morning that took a significant period of time, and I appreciate your indulgence in this matter. It became necessary for me to excuse one of the jurors in this case, and we will now at this time ask Mrs. Robertson to draw the name of an alternate juror to replace that juror.
Juror number 1489, can you please have a seat in seat number 10?
All right, and let's ask 1492. All right, 1492, let me ask you to stay there, down there in the cheap seats, just until Mrs. Robertson has the time to readjust, and after the lunch hour, we'll change seats. All right. All right, are the people ready to call their next witness?
Yes, we are.
All right, you may proceed.
People call Ms. Tia Gavin.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please have a seat on the witness stand and state and spell your first and last names for the record.
Tia, T-I-A, Gavin, G-A-V-I-N.
Thank you.
Ms. Clark.
You comfortable?
Yes, Alice.
Ms. Gavin, directing your attention to the date of June the 12th, 1994. As of that date, where were you employed?
At the Mezzaluna Restaurant,
And where is that located?
11750 San Vicente Boulevard.
Your Honor, I have here a map of the area that I've shown to counsel. I'd ask if you mark Peoples next in order.
Peoples 26.
Thank you. And showing you this map, if you look at it for a minute comfortably,
You want me to point out the restaurant?
just a minute, so the jury can see it. No. could use the pointer and step down.
It's right here where the yellow dot is.
That's the Mezzaluna?
Yes, it is.
All right. Now, as of June the 12th, 1994, can you tell us where approximately you were living in relation to the Mezzaluna?
Northeast on Gorham Avenue.
Can you point to that location roughly? Just give us an
Up
estimate.
around this area?
Above where the map ends?
Yes.
Do you happen to know did you know back then someone by the name of Ron Goldman?
Yes.
And did you know where he lived?
Yes.
Can you show us on this map where that was?
On the same block, right over here.
Approximately where that brown house is?
Yes.
And could you point to that brown house for the jury? And that's the same as shown in the icon there, Ron Goldman?
Yes, it is.
All right, you can have a seat. Thank you. Now, from where you were living at that time, how long would it take you to walk to the Mezzaluna?
2 minutes.
And then Ron Goldman, did he live closer to the Mezzaluna than you?
Yes, he did.
And so, how much closer was it?
About a half a block closer. Probably take him under 2 minutes.
Okay. Now, we're referring to this person named Ron Goldman. I'm going to show you a photograph. That's to be marked People's next in order, People's 27, Your Honor.
People's 27.
Thank you. Showing you People's 27. Can you tell me if you recognize?
Yes.
Show
Yes,
that
that's
photograph, and who is that?
it's Ron Goldman.
When did you begin working at the Mezzaluna?
In late November of '93,
And when did you meet Ron Goldman?
when he began work there in late January of '94.
Do you recall when Ron Goldman began working at the Mezzaluna?
I believe it was in January of '94.
94. And is that when you met him?
Yes.
And in what capacity did he work there?
As a waiter,
And in what capacity did you work there?
as a waitress.
Directing your attention to the date of June the 12th, 1994, were you working at the Mezzaluna on that date?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall what time you came in?
5 p.m., around then.
Now, when you work at the restaurant, when you come in, do you have to punch a time clock?
Yes, we do.
And do you have to punch out as well?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay. And is that true for everyone who works in the restaurant?
Yes, everyone except I think the managers, but everyone else.
And you're familiar with your own time card and what that looks like?
Yes.
You want to have your time card, counsel has seen. I'd ask that you mark People's 28.
All right, People's 28, copy of a time card.
Thank you.
And Ms. Gavin, there's a monitor right there. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, do you recognize what's being shown there, ma'am?
Yes, it's my time card.
I noticed that the name there is Tia Smith.
That's my maiden name.
Okay. That was before you changed it.
Yes.
Okay. And that's your time card for the week ending on June the 12th, 1994?
Yes.
Okay, Jonathan, if you can move it up a little bit and show Sunday on there. There we go. You see where it says Sunday, which would be June the 12th?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And does it show there where you clocked in?
Yes, it does.
And what time does it show?
5:02 p.m.
Okay, we can take it down for now. Now, on the night of June the 12th, did you happen to see Ron Goldman?
Yes.
Was he working there also?
Yes, he was.
And did you discuss who was going to take which table?
Yes. I noticed when I came into work that there was a party of 10 on the reservation book, and so we were trying to decide who would take the table, what stations we'd work. And at that point, Ron saw the name and said, "Oh, it's Nicole Brown. It's a friend of mine."
Okay. Did that seem to be something of big significance to him, or was it just...
No, he didn't know she was coming in, but he just said, "Oh, that's a friend of mine." It didn't seem like a big deal.
Okay. And so who took the table of, that was for the party of Nicole Brown?
I did.
Were there any other female waitresses, female servers there that night working in the Mezzaluna?
Yes, I think there was.
And who was that?
Heather Nygren. I think it's Nygren.
Thank you.
So it was you, were you two then the two female servers there that night?
Yes, there were 3 of us all together.
And so, oh, okay, it was you,
Ron, Heather, and myself.
just the 3 of you?
Yes, as waiters.
Now, did you happen to see Nicole Brown and her party arrive that night?
Yes.
About what time did they get there?
They were late for their reservation, about 15 or 20 minutes, so I'd say 6:45 or 6:50.
How many people were in her party?
10?
Did it include any children?
Yes. There were 4, I think.
Now, had you ever met her before that night?
No, I had not.
That was the first time.
Yes.
Do you recall what she was wearing?
Yes, a black dress, short black dress with a black blazer over it.
Was it like a halter dress?
Yes.
Do you recall whether there were any older people in the party with her?
Yes, there were. There was a older gentleman and a woman as well.
And were there some women of approximately her age as well?
Yes.
Did you happen to notice whether she had a date or an escort with her?
I think the only gentleman there was her father.
Do you recall what time Nicole and her party left?
Between 8:30 and 9, 8:45-ish.
I'm going to show you a photograph and ask you to just tell me if you recognize who it is, and ask that this photograph be marked People's 29.
People's 29. Yes.
Thank you. Showing you what is now People's 29. Can you tell us if you recognize who that is?
Yes, I can.
And who is that?
Nicole Simpson?
Nicole Brown?
Yes.
Now, do you call, you said between 8:30 and 9 that they left?
Yes.
Did you offer dessert to that party?
Yes, I did.
And did Nicole choose to have dessert?
No, they said that they were taking the children out for ice cream.
Do you recall seeing Ron Goldman leave before you did?
I don't remember seeing him leave through the door, walk out, no.
Did he get off or punch out his time card before you?
Yes, he was off at least a half hour before me.
Was he the first one to get off that night?
Yes, he was.
Can we bring it up again, please? It's showing you now, once again, the time card for Sunday, June the 12th, 1994. Can you tell us if it shows here on your time card what time you clocked out?
9:50?
9:50 or 9:58?
It's hard for me to tell on the monitor because that corner is,
Would it help if I showed you?
yes, that's an 8, 9:58.
Thank you.
You blew it up, thanks.
Thanks, John. All right, when you clocked out at 9:58, was Ron Goldman still at the restaurant?
No, he wasn't.
Put up the map. All right, this is the same thing that you see in people's 26 up on the screen. You see the yellow dot you previously identified as the location of the Mezzaluna?
Yes?
Now, are you familiar with where the Mezzaluna is in relationship to 875 South Bundy?
Yes.
Can you tell us approximately how far the Mezzaluna is from 875 South Bundy?
Too long, about 2.5, 3 blocks. They're longer blocks, but
If you were to walk that distance, approximately how long would it take you from the Mezzaluna to 875 South Bundy?
under 10 minutes.
And can you also, are there two entrances to the Mezzaluna restaurant?
Yes?
What are they?
There's the front door, which is on San Vicente, and then there's a back door on Gorham that most customers don't use, but it can be used by customers. Rarely.
Bless you. Why don't customers usually use that?
Because there's a patio outside and there's a little gate around it, and there is actually a door to the gate that opens, but most people don't even, it's hard to tell that there's a door there, so most people don't realize they can go in that way. Often, even the employees, when they're going in and out of there, will just step over the gate. So it's much more inconvenient than coming in through the front door.
So most of the customers use the front door for entry and exit?
Yes.
And that entry and exit would lead you out onto San Vicente?
Yes.
Now, the street indicated right here, where I have the red dot, can you see that? Is it-
Yes, that's Gorham.
That's Gorham?
Mhm.
Okay. And then this street here is San Vicente?
Yes.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro?
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Gavin.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Did you have an opportunity to talk with Ms. Clark and Investigator Van Adder about this case?
Yes, I did.
And was that on September the 15th of this year?
Yes, that sounds right.
And during that conversation, did you inform both Ms. Clark and Mr. Van Adder that you believed the time clock was off 1 hour because of daylight savings time?
There was confusion over whether we were talking about there's a time on the NCR computer that we do our checks with and whatnot. There was confusing whether we were discussing the time on that, which is always off, or whether it was the time clock.
Have you ever seen a report that was written by Mr. Van Adder regarding your interview with them?
No. No.
Did you tell Ms. Clark and Mr. Van Adder that when you left, you did not know whether Ron Goldman had left or not?
No, I'd be surprised if I said that.
Did you say that you did not know if Ron Goldman was still there when you left?
No, I'd be surprised if I said that.
And let me show you a copy. Did you see Mr. Goldman sitting with somebody at the time you left the restaurant?
At the time I left, no. Earlier in the evening, he was sitting with John DeBello and Richard Abellino, the managers at the time.
So you did not tell Mr. Van Adder that you remember seeing Ron Goldman after he got off work sitting at one of the tables with John DeBello at approximately 9:30 p.m.?
Yes, after Ron got off work, yes. I thought you said after I left. As I left, I saw him sitting there. I did not, but I saw him sitting there before he left, yes.
And then the report continues, she stated she did not see him leave the restaurant.
That's correct.
So you did not see Ron leave the
That's
restaurant?
correct.
And she stated the time clock was off, she believed, 1 hour because of daylight savings time and would supply her time card for June 12th. Did you say that?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Do you know if the Nicole Brown Simpson party was seated immediately when they came in the restaurant?
I think they probably were because they were late, and I don't remember anybody milling around by the bar.
Do you have any independent recollection of whether they were seated immediately or not?
No, I don't.
And would you agree that in serving 10 people that you were the only wait person doing that job?
Yes.
And does it take some time to get the orders from the kids and to get organized for that larger group?
Certainly.
Do you have any independent recollection as to what Nicole Brown Simpson had for dinner that night?
No.
Excuse me.
No.
Do you have any way of refreshing your memory as to what she had for dinner?
Only discussions that happened after the event.
Discussions with whom?
People in the restaurant, employees, fellow employees.
And did that refresh your memory as to what she had for dinner?
Yes.
And, well, what did they tell you?
Rigatoni. So
Do you recall whether there was an appetizer or any starter?
I don't. I recall there was one bottle of wine ordered. I think it was a bottle of Chianti. And that's the only specific food item I remember. Or,
You anticipated my next question.
oh,
Thank you, I appreciate that. Do you recall how long the dinner took for the 10 people?
believe about an hour and a half.
So your estimate is by no earlier than 8:30 and possibly 9 o'clock, the dinner was completed and the party left.
Yes.
And it was your understanding they were going out for dessert.
Yes, they told me as much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Clark?
Yes. Mr. Shapiro asked if you had read the statement. He offered to let you read it. He didn't let you read it, did he?
No.
I'm going to let you read it now. I want to let you first review it, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions about it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Shapiro asked you if you ever told Detective Van Adder that you did not know whether Ron Goldman was still there when you left. Do you recall that question?
Just now? Yes.
Do you see anywhere in that report that you said any such thing?
No.
Mr. Shapiro also asked you if you told Detective Van Adder that at the time you left the restaurant, you saw Mr. Goldman sitting with somebody at a table at the time you left. Do you see that in the report anywhere?
No, it says she remembers seeing Ron Goldman after he got off work, sitting at one of the tables.
But not that you saw that at the time you left.
No.
With respect to the time clock, do you recall resolving that question in your mind as to whether or not it was off due to daylight savings?
Oh, yes.
And what did you discover?
That it was not off, and that there was confusion over whether we were talking about the time on the NCR machine or the time on the time clock.
Are you talking, when you say the NCR? When you say the NCR machine, can you tell us what you mean by that?
I think that's what it's called. I think that's the company that makes the computer. It's the computer that you put all your orders into when you're making orders and prints the checks that you deliver to the table.
Kind of like the cash register,
Yes,
only
except it,
fancier now.
except it, yeah, it doesn't have cash in it.
And so that was the machine that was off in terms of time.
Yes.
So the receipts that are printed out for credit purchases or, I guess, cash purchases too, will show a time for the customer that is incorrect.
It could, yeah. I mean, it has been off quite a lot. I don't know who regulates that, but
So if a customer pays with a credit card, that machine is going to print out a time on it that is not reliable.
whether they pay by credit card or not, it's not, because it's not related to the credit card machine, which is a separate machine altogether. It's the check that you deliver to the table. So if they kept a receipt, if they paid by credit card, it might be the credit card receipt. If they kept their check, then that would have a time on it, and that would most likely not be right, but it could be.
On the other hand, the time clock that you punch in and out of, the employees punch in and out of, that was accurate.
Yes.
So the times that you just told us about when you punched in and out on your time card, those are correct?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Recross?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, may we mark the witness's statement form as defendant's, I believe it's 1004? May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Does the last I'm sorry.
I do love giving it to counsel right now.
Let me have Ms. Robertson run back and make a photocopy so you don't lose your copy. Mrs. Robertson?
There's actually two statements.
Tell me the latter one, for a very simple question. Continue without showing her the report. In reading the report, did I accurately read to you those statements that you read to yourself?
Well, I thought I heard you say, when you left, did you see Ron Goldman?
Perhaps I misspoke myself then. Other than that, did I accurately read that?
I believe so. Yes.
So there's no confusion. Do you have an independent knowledge as to when Ron Goldman left Mezzaluna on June the 12th?
But he left before I did, and that's as much as specific as I can be. That I am sure of. Exactly what time before me, I have no idea.
But you did see him leave the restaurant.
No, I didn't see him leave.
Well, how do you know he left before you?
Because I was in the restaurant for a good, there's at least, I have a memory of being around the restaurant doing my duties and whatnot for at least 20 minutes speaking with people. It's not that big a restaurant. And I didn't see him unless he was hiding somewhere.
Are there any restrooms in the restaurant?
Yes?
I take it you didn't check to see if he was in the restroom?
No, I didn't.
What about the kitchen area? Are there any back employees areas?
There's a kitchen, a small kitchen.
Did you check there?
I wasn't checking for him. I wasn't.
So you are surmising, are you not?
Yeah.
That he
That
had
over the
left,
course of the half hour that I was there and I didn't see him, that he wasn't there.
but you don't have any independent recollection of actually seeing him leave the restaurant?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Ms. Clark? All right, Ms. Gavin, thank you very much for coming in. Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody else other than the lawyers in the case till the case has been concluded. Do you understand the order, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much for coming in. Ms. Clark, your next witness, please.
Yes, thank you, Rob. Can you call Stuart Tanner? I need to inform counsel of something before.
Certainly.